All right, we've read four stories in this class so far, so let's talk about them briefly. In the first week, I assigned Most Dangerous Game and Powder. That was mainly done to illustrate the differences between a clear genre story and a more literary fiction type story, which hopefully you understood. Now I've also added on How I Met My Husband by Alice Munro and Miss Brill by Catherine Mansfield. And these are both literary fiction stories. What I'd like to kind of do is look at what makes all four stories similar. That's really the lesson for this week. All four stories have a protagonist, a person whose story it is, and that protagonist has a fairly clear conflict in each story. And each one of those conflicts or problems that the protagonist deals with comes to a climactic point very close to the end of the story, and then the story's over. You have a man on an island fighting for his life, and the climax to that story is when he's on the cliff about to jump, because there is no good option for Rainsford at that point. He has two bad choices, and so that's the highest moment of suspense. You have a son who's trying to learn to be with a father who he's not too sure about, and it comes to a climactic point at the most dangerous part of that ski trip is going down this mountain, and the son in that moment can either reject his father or learn to appreciate him, and that's the climactic point there. Now you have a young girl who has to kind of decide what kind of woman she's going to be, and is in danger of maybe spending who knows how long of her life waiting for somebody to write her a letter, which is obviously never going to come. And so finally, you have an old woman who is near the end of her life, but is trying to maintain her idea of who she is when all the evidence is really telling her she's not that person, really. In each case, like I said, it's a person who has a problem, and the problem's resolved at the end in the climactic point. The main difference, I think, between the four stories is that in the three literary stories, you have people and problems that are somewhat relatable, that we might face in our lives at some point, whereas in Most Dangerous Game, the problem that Rainsford faces is pretty freakish, and I would hope that you would never have to face that problem. But the story's fun, so that's the reason that it's being told. Okay, let's stick with that, and I've got some questions about those stories for you on the discussion board.